Warning, this podcast contains descriptions of murder, torture and abuse. As a result, it may not be suitable for everybody. Glasgow, Scotland. The most populous city in Scotland and third most populous city in the United Kingdom. As of 2019, estimated city population of 611,000. Historically part of Lanarkshire, the city now forms the Glasgow City Council area, one of 32 council areas of Scotland. The local authority is Glasgow City Council. Glasgow is situated on the River Clyde in the country's West Central Lowlands and the fifth most visited city in the UK. Listen to the hometown murder cases of Madeleine Hamilton Smith, who was a 19th century Glasgow socialite who was accused in a sensational murder trial in Scotland in 1857. Madeleine Hamilton Smith was born the 29th of March 1835 and died the 12th of April 1928. She was a Glasgow socialite who was accused of murder in Scotland in 1857. Smith was the first child of five of an upper middle class family in Glasgow. Her father James was a wealthy architect, and her mother Elizabeth was the daughter of leading neoclassical architect David Hamilton. The family lived at number 7 Blythewood Square, Glasgow, at the crown of the new developments by William Harley on Blythewood Hill, and also had a country property, Rowellan, near Helensburgh. Smith broke the strict Victorian conventions of the time when, as a young woman in early 1855, she began a secret love affair with Pierre-Emile Lanarkshire, some 10 years her senior, an apprentice nurseryman who originally came from the Channel Islands. He worked as a packing clerk in a warehouse at 10 Bothwell Street nearby. The pair would meet late at night at Smith's bedroom window and also engage in voluminous correspondence. During one of their infrequent meetings alone, she lost her virginity. Smith's parents, unaware of the affair, whom Smith had promised to marry, found a suitable fiancé with her Glasgow upper-class William Harper Minnock. Smith attempted to break her connection with Lanarkshire and in February 1857 asked him to return the letters she had written to him. Instead, he threatened to use the letters to expose her and force her to marry him. She was soon observed in a druggist's office ordering arsenic when she signed for as M.H. Smith. Early on the morning of the 23rd of March 1857, Lanarkshire died from arsenic poisoning. He was buried in Ramshorn Cemetery on Ingram Street in Glasgow. After his death, Madeleine Smith's numerous letters were found in the house where he lodged, and she was arrested and charged with murder. At the trial, Smith, defended by advocate John England, later known as Lord Glencorse, toxicological evidence confirmed that the victim had died of arsenic poisoning given by Andrew Douglas McLagan. Although the circumstantial evidence pointed towards her guilt, as Smith had made purchases of arsenic in the weeks leading up to Anglia's death and had a clear motive, the jury returned a verdict of non-proven. The verdict of not proven is a verdict available to courts in just Scotland. Under Scottish law, a common trial may end in one of three verdicts: one of conviction, guilty, and two of acquittal, not proven and not guilty. Crucial to the case was the order of certain letters from Smith to Lanarkshire, as the letters themselves were undated. The case hinged to some extent on the envelopes. One letter in particular depended on the correct interpretation of the date of the postmark, which was unfortunately illegible and attracted some caustic comments from the judge. The vast majority of these postmarks were quite clearly struck. It transpired that the police searched his rooms. Many of Smith's letters were found without envelopes and were then hurriedly collected and struck into whatever envelopes came to hand. On the 4th of June 1861, she married an artist named George Wardle, William Morris's business manager. They had one son, Thomas, born 1864, and one daughter, Mary, they called Kitten, born in 1863. For a time she became involved with the Fabian Society in London, a British socialist organisation whose purpose was to advance the principles of democratic socialism via gradualist and reformist efforts in democracies rather than by revolutionary overthrow. She attended meetings in London and sometimes made the coffee at meetings. She was known by her new married name. Not everybody knew who she was, but a few did. After many years of marriage, she and her husband separated in 1889 and Madeleine moved to New York City. Around 1916, she married a second time to William A. Sheehy, and marriage lasted until his death in 1926. She died in 1928 and was buried under the name of Lena Waldorf-Sheeny. As in the case of Lizzie Borden, scholars and amateur criminologists have spent decades going over the minutiae of the case. Most modern scholars believe that Smith committed the crime, and the only thing that saved her from a guilty verdict and a death sentence was that no eyewitnesses could prove that Smith and Lanarkshire had met in the weeks before his death. After the trial, the Scotsman ran a small article stating that a witness had come forward claiming that a young male and female were seen outside Smith's house on the night of his death. However, the trial was already in progress and the witness could not be questioned during it. Smith's case was so famous that it spurned several dramatisations later on in life. The story was the basis for several plays and the David Lean film Madeleine in 1950. Jack House's book Square Mile Murder in 1961 contains a section on Smith. This formed the basis for a BBC television version in 1980. A television play based upon the case Killer in Close Up, The Trial of Madeleine Smith, written by George F. Kerr, was also produced by Sydney television station ABN2. This was broadcast on the 13th of August 1958. The case was also the inspiration for Wilkie Collins' novel The Law and the Lady in 1875, though the only main similar features were the problem of the Scottish not proven verdict and the arsenic poisoning as a means for murder. In the early 1930s, MGM starred Joan Crawford, Niles Asher and Robert Montgomery in a film called Letty Linton, which was based on the 1931 novel of the same title by Marie Adelaide Belloc-Lowndes. This film closely follows Madeleine's story, except that Crawford's character is never charged, and in an example of pre-code Hollywood, gets away with murder. The film is not presently available due to a copyright suit filed shortly after the film's release in 1932. The case was again dramatised in 1957 for Mutual Radio in an episode of The Black Museum titled The Small White Boxes. Other novels based on the case include The House in the Queen Anne Square in 1920 by William Darling Lyle, Lovers or Untrue, published in 1970 by Nora Lofts, and alas for her that met me in 1976 by Mary Ann Ash, the president of Christiana Brand. From 1976 to 1989, Madeleine Smith was one of the figures in the Chamber of Horrors section in the Edinburgh Wax Museum on the Royal Mile.